Hello, hello. I think we are live. Let me move my microphone a little closer to me. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. We should be live, actually, not just on YouTube, but we should also be live on Rumble as well, and if I did everything correctly. And we should also be live on X. Let me just check. This is a very important morning. Let me just check and see if I did Rumble right. I think I did. Yes. Okay. We are live on YouTube. We're live on Rumble. Hopefully, I didn't boomer X. Hopefully, we're live on X. It's a very, very important morning. As you guys know, in the next 2 minutes here, we're going to be hearing oral arguments on Adam Fox and Barry Croft's appeals. Adam and Barry, of course, were framed as the ringleader for Adam and the spiritual leader for Barry for the FBI's Governor Whitmer Fednapping hoax. And everybody knows what happened here. Guy Vermectin says, "This is the first time I've woken up at 8 a.m. in years." Oh my goodness. This is not the first time I've woken up early in years. I have woken up early before. I continued to wake up early. And justice for Adam and Barry agreed. Justice for Adam and Barry. Let me get the link out for this. Let me share it and let everybody know I'm live here, so people can start piling in. We're going to be listening in about 1 minute. Okay. Sorry, bear with me, guys. You know how it is when we're on all these platforms, having to let everybody know across every platform that you're live. It is what it is. It's a hassle, but we have to do it. Okay, let's see. This should be it. That should be bringing everybody in. Hopefully everyone has been praying for the guys. I know I have been. Let's go ahead and let's share our screen and bring up the oral arguments. They're gonna appear here. Let me go ahead and refresh this. The link has not shown up yet. The links are supposed to appear at 9 a.m. and we're just at 9 now, so they haven't shown up yet, but they're going to show up there. Good morning, W. Daisy Girl Williams. Good to see you. You've been praying. I think that's what you're saying. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. It should just be a minute now, guys. I did check yesterday to see if it was going to work like it was before. And it worked yesterday when they had oral arguments going yesterday. So I assume that the links are going to start appearing any minute now. I'm just refreshing it here. Still no live audio link yet. But you can see here, I'll just share my screen so everyone can see. You can see that it's going to be, they should be showing up here. This is if you just go to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals website. They have a tab for live oral arguments. You can see scheduled here for Larson, Riedler, and Davis. Audio link will appear here when live, and the guys are first up, so they should be going first. The guys get 10 minutes each, and then the government will get 20 minutes. So it's technically it's 20 and 20. It's 10 minutes for Adam, 10 minutes for Barry. That's in total 20 minutes for the defense, and then another 20 minutes for the government to rebut. Thank you guys for praying. That means a lot, not just to me, but to the families as well. We still have no live audio links. I guess they need to get it together. Hopefully they'll be appearing here any minute. Gosh, that's concerning. I was a little bit nervous that something like this might happen, that they might not have it up today. And this is why I was considering going to traveling to Nashville to attend in person. But since I was able to listen to it yesterday, I didn't think I'd have to do that. Now, the other thing is if this doesn't happen, if for whatever reason we don't get the live audio link, they do indicate that it will be made available later. So they're still recording it. Even if they're not streaming it live, it should still be available. We're just going to keep being patient, and we're going to wait and see. Hopefully the link is going to be showing up here soon. It is really frustrating though, isn't it? Because you never know what's going to happen when it comes to things like this. You know, the audio was working fine yesterday. Now today we're getting nothing. I'm sure that's just, you know, random. I'm sure it has nothing to do with everybody wanting to hear the oral arguments today. Well, how disappointing. I'm going to keep checking. Hopefully they're just running a little bit late. Maybe they're just having a little bit of technical difficulties. Let me check. This is so weird because it was working fine yesterday. Let me just check and see. Let me see if I can find channel there and see if it is. The audio channels are live. It's hard, you know, you never knowing what's going to happen with this stuff. Let me see. We're going to try again, guys. We're going to refresh one more time. Yeah, no audio links right now. Look at this. This is so frustrating. Here we are. The live audio link will appear here when live. 5 minutes in, and there's none of them are working. None of them. That is very bizarre. I do not know why. Come on. We're going to try refreshing again. Still nothing. Wow. What a pain. But you can see it right here. This should be happening. But nothing right now. Still no link. Let me see if I can find. Let me see if they just haven't posted it on their website yet. Because I did have something yesterday, but then they took it down. Yeah. So is audio 2 live? No, they're not live yet at all right now. The channel that the audio typically streams from is the Sixth Circuit. They have a YouTube channel. This is where it was streaming from yesterday. Yes, at least I'm trying. I'm trying. That's right. I'm doing my best, but you know, what am I supposed to do? If it's not working, it's not working. This is just how it is. And I just looked at their YouTube channel where their audio feed is, and it is not live at all whatsoever. I have a feeling that we're not going to get to hear this until tomorrow. Maybe they're going to go, oh, you know, we had technical difficulties, which is very frustrating because everybody's sitting here waiting. Like the Sixth Circuit is in Ohio. This hearing is in Nashville. We don't know why it's being held in Nashville. I think they may be working on the courthouse in Ohio. But there's no excuse if it was working yesterday and it was working fine, why it's not working right now. Come on, 10 minutes in, still no live links for any of them. Not for any of them. Eric, who has been acquitted in this case, says these men need to be released. Disgusting that this ever happened. Yeah, I agree. W Daisy Girl says, I told MLS Law about the trial last night. He is working this morning, but will be listening and putting eyes on the trial too. Well, if nobody is able to hear it right now, which is very unfortunate. And I think it's ridiculous. Yep, nothing, no live audio links here. Still nothing, 8 minutes in. And remember, they only get 10 minutes each. Yeah, this is so intentional to keep us out 100%. Absolutely, they know I always stream this stuff and I always cover it. They didn't like it when I trial streamed it the last time during the state trial. You guys know they tried to strike my channel and tried to remove us, then tried to shut us down from streaming it at all and providing commentary. You remember at one point I had to stop sharing my screen and I had to just say what was going on. I had to like narrate the proceedings and give my commentary. Yeah, this is to me, it seems very intentional. None of these are working. And I don't think that they're going to. It's not going to be on C-SPAN. No, this is literally it. There's one place to listen into the live audio feed if you're not attending in person in Nashville, which would have been a 10-hour drive for me. You know, it's not really justifiable for me to have to drive an entire day, you know, a 10-hour drive to get to Tennessee, pay for a hotel, to go and to show up and listen to literally a 20-minute argument. It just wasn't justifiable, and I assumed this would be working as it was working perfectly fine yesterday. Unreal. This is so rude. You know, they're doing this to these families too. All of the family members are trying to listen in. They want to be able to hear what's happening. It's very frustrating. And now, since the audio feed isn't working, we're not going to have any answers maybe until tomorrow, if that. And that's frustrating. Okay, let's try again. Let's just keep refreshing here. Still nothing. Maybe we could be patient. We could say maybe that the court has just like, it takes time to get people to settle in and for judges to show up. A lot of times these judges are late, you know, or they have things going on last minute that causes them to not start on time. So we'll try to give people like the benefit of the doubt and assume that this isn't like an intentional thing, although it certainly seems like it. Very upsetting. But hopefully they're just running low. Maybe they quit drinking their coffee too. Yeah, that's right. 10 minutes each. This is years of BS. There's no way to effectively defend yourself from this crap in 10 minutes. I will pray for them. Yeah, what's really weird about that too is like, yeah, this is so weird. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to check the court channel to make sure I'm not missing anything. I just want to make sure everything's working. But yeah, the 10 minutes is absurd. Okay, so what it is basically is it's not like they're trying to argue their entire case today or anything like that. What the 10 minutes is for is basically they've already filed their appellate briefs. You guys know that. And so they basically are getting 10 minutes to do oral arguments on their briefs. So that would be these documents that they filed for the guys. Well, that's Adam's reply brief. So the government gets to respond. They filed their appellate briefs, the government responds, and then this is their response to the government. So this is the reply brief instead of the regular brief. But they're essentially, that's what this is. Yeah. And yeah, that is how appeals work. It's very sad. Here we go. We've got Barry's appeal. This was filed by Mr. Tim Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney has about 260 pages here. These are the different things they're going to brief on the issues. Basically, they've broken it down into The main issues, they've got 5 of them that are going to be, that they want to be raised on appeal. And this is what they're going to be talking about today. It is just, them giving their argument for why this should be taken up by the courts, why the appeal should happen. That's basically it. And then the government will get to say why they don't want the appeals to happen and why it shouldn't happen. Okay, so we are still not getting any working audio live feed at all from the Sixth Circuit here. The website's now not even loading for me properly. That's concerning. Yeah, this is how appeals work. The courts have long been on the downslide. Absolutely true. I agree. Yeah, now the Sixth Circuit live argument feed is not, okay, there we go. It's loading, but it's still not working. There's still no audio coming from this. This is so absurd, guys. I don't know what to say. I apologize. I had everything set up for this morning. I didn't think we were going to have any issues because we didn't have any issues last time. Yeah, here we are and nothing. All right, so what I'm going to do, do you guys think I should, I don't know, maybe like just wait and see, keep the stream going live. We can hang out and talk, right? I wish I could say I was surprised this was happening, Keek says. Yeah, I think nobody is surprised that this is happening. Everything, like I said, was working fine yesterday. It's only today that this isn't working. I don't know why. But here we are. So in the meantime, while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit of information with you guys about the judges that are going to be listening in this morning, just to give you some background information. If you're not aware of them, I put out this small thread, and nobody ever sees this stuff, by the way. This is not me complaining either, just to be fair, but I am realistically saying I feel like I'm shadow banned everywhere, or people just don't care, and I don't want to believe that people just don't care. So we're going to go ahead and go with I'm heavily shadow banned. And so I want to go through some of this information about the judges, though. We finally know who the judges are that are going to be hearing the oral arguments today for Adam and Barry. So as you can see, this is supposed to be happening right now. They get 10 minutes for each defendant and 20 minutes for the plaintiff. The judges assigned to the case is Chad A. Riedler, Joan L. Larson, and Stephanie Dawkins Davis. That is these 3 individuals that will be on the panel. Here's a little bit of background information on Judge Chad Riedler. He is a Trump appointment. He graduated from the University of Michigan in 1994. He's represented capital defendants before the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Democrats did complain about his nomination. So I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, just that they complained about him. So take that as you will. Like, they didn't like him. They criticized his nomination. They vowed that Judge Chad Riedler will be a 2020 issue. Marian Schumer, among Democrats, blasting his role in targeting healthcare law. So he, I believe, was one of the people who wanted to repeal Obamacare, and they really didn't like that. So they wanted to make this, I guess, an issue. Okay. Yeah, Senate confirms Ohio's Chad Riedler as federal appeals judge over objection from Democrats, of course. Okay. Now, moving on. So make of that what you will. Here's more on Judge Riedler. This is his page from the Federalist Society. And it goes into a little bit of his background. He earned his undergraduate and his law degrees from the University of Michigan. So by the way, Each of the judges seem to have connections to Michigan if they're not from Michigan. So I thought that could be either a good thing or a bad thing when it comes to this case. That I think that a lot of people in Michigan have strong feelings about it. They know what happened, but there's also some people who are very pro Whitmer in Michigan. And so it could go either way, right? We really don't know. He then began practicing law in the Columbia office of the international law firm Jones Day. I'm sure some of you all have heard of Jones Day. They're a pretty big firm. Anyways, moving on, you can see here he attended a Federalist Society. The Catholic Law Federalist Society hosts Judge Chad Riedler. This is from March of 2024. The Federalist Society at the Catholic University of America Columbus School of Law, Catholic Law, hosted Judge Chad Riedler of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit and William Levy, partner at Sidley Austin, on Wednesday, March 6th, to discuss job opportunities and career paths at the DOJ. Judge Riedler and Levy both worked at DOJ during the Trump administration, relay their respective career trajectories and how they found themselves at DOJ. And they talk about the workplace culture. This was another article about him from 2021. Dicta about dicta. Sixth Circuit panel gets testy over opinions sources. And this is just from his wiki. You can see he was appointed by Trump. Just want to check back here and make sure that still no audio feed here. Unbelievable. Here's background on Judge Larson. She was a Trump appointment, served as Associate Justice of the Michigan Supreme Court from 2015 to 2017. But during her college days, she stuffed envelopes for Joe Biden. So make of that what you will. Larson was part of a group of judges that Mitch McConnell promoted. You guys remember this, I'm sure. Mitch McConnell had an entire list of judicial nominations that he pushed Trump to get through during his first term. And she was one of those people. She also, like I said, while she is a Trump appointment, she's somebody who, and I think she's supposed to be considered like a conservative. She's still somebody who in college did support Joe Biden. So here's an article on that. Meet Joan Larson, former Democrat volunteer who was another potential SCOTUS nominee. This is an article from 2020. U.S. Circuit Judge Joan Larson, a conservative judge on Trump's shortlist of possible Supreme Court nominations, had different political leanings as a college student. While in college, Larson helped stuff envelopes for then Senator Joe Biden's 1988 presidential run. That was when he was running for president back in the 80s. The AP reported 8 years later, she was volunteering for Bob Dole. So that's kind of interesting. Make of that what you will. I mean, I don't make too much of it because, you know, everybody has, when you're a kid, I mean, I think that most people go through a liberal stage like that at some point in their life. Okay, so I have some news for you guys. We've got an update. I'm going to bring up the live audio feed. It looks like we're going to be getting audio here momentarily because I do see the live audio stream here for these two that were at 8:30. It looks like they're not having it live. It looks like they're putting it up after the fact, which is kind of bizarre because I still don't see, I see the live audio stream here for these, nothing here for the Whitmer guys. So we're just, but this is good news though. It's good that some of them have started populating in. I am assuming, yes, some live streams are coming in now. Good to see you, Chastity. I'm assuming they're just having a slow day at court. You know how it is. This is like, if anybody has worked in law, you know this is like a normal thing. So I didn't want to like get people too worked up. Although, it is true that yesterday they didn't have any issues. Okay, so I want to just put this out for everybody. I want to share the link to the live audio feed in case people aren't able to watch it with us here watching it now. I still want people to be able to find it to get to it later, so I will include that in the video description also, but I've also just I guess tweeted it. I'm not going to say what do you say? We still say tweet, right? We're not exit? No, that's not a thing. It's still referred to as tweeting, right? I put out a tweet with the link to the live audio feed. I'm going to just keep refreshing it here. Still nothing, but hopefully we're going to be getting it soon. It's good to see that happening. He followed the Federalist Society. Yes. Simdal says Trump is a terrible judge of character considering most his appointees. This judge might as well be proof he is not partisan. Could be bad news. I don't know. I'm not sure. Trump only success is Gorsuch. Keek says not many. When you drive around here, there's a lot of Whitmer's anti-Whitmer signs, shall we say. So, I guess a lot of people are not fans of Big Gretch, as she likes to call herself. Could you imagine, by the way, referring to yourself as Big Gretch? She's doing that like voluntarily, which is frustrating. Okay, so sorry, I was just talking to Adam's mom. She says it looks like they're not going to be streaming, there's no audio feed. I believe we're going to get it though. Some of the audio feeds have come in. We don't know. Sean may be able to find you a live feed we can watch together. I left him a message. Oh, that would be fantastic. If we can find that, like Sean is good at stuff like that. Yeah, that would be great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, still nothing here for any of these things that are supposed to be live at 9. That is so annoying. I'm thinking, you know what I think they're doing? I think they're putting it up after. So they have the link to the one from 8:30 from an hour ago. Are we really going to have to sit here and just hang out until 10 o'clock to get the live audio feed? That's ridiculous. But that's, yeah, this is how it is. This is the games that they play. It is frustrating. All right, let's go back to my thread just to tell you about the judges here that are going to be on the panel. All right, so we were looking at Judge Larson, who again could kind of go either way. More on Judge Larson's background, appointed by Trump, as you can see. She was also an associate justice for the Michigan Supreme Court. So again, all of these judges seem to have ties to Michigan, and that could be a good thing or could be a bad thing, depending on how that affects them. But just reading part of her career, Larson became a professor at the University of Michigan Law School in 1998. She clerked for Judge David B. Sentinel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit and for Justice Antonin Scalia of the Supreme Court during the 1994 term. She served as Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Department of Justice Office of Legal Counsel from January 2002 to May 2003 in the administration of George Bush. Larson did not contribute to the OLC's torture memos, and in March 2002, she authored a memo addressing detainee court access. And then some information about Judge Stephanie Dawkins Davis. She is a Biden appointment, served as a district judge of the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Michigan. She is a member of the American Constitution Society from 2008 to 2016. There isn't much information about her out there. She was appointed by Trump to her position in the Eastern District before her nomination by Biden for the Sixth Circuit. So she's a Biden appointee, but she's also technically kind of a Trump appointee too. So I don't know, again, like this could go either way. I don't know what to make of it. Okay, so we still have no live audio feed here. Here's Adam's mom. She says, good morning. Good to see you out there. We are still waiting. Good to see you as well. We're still waiting for the audio feed to come in. It should have been in here 28 minutes ago, but of course, they have to play these games. Oh no. Furby Slayer says the American Constitution Society is openly progressive. So that Judge Stephanie Dawkins Davis, that last one, she's part of that group. I mean, the names obviously are deceiving. American Constitutional Society, but they don't actually revere the Constitution. So I'm not sure why they call themselves that. It's very bizarre. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here so you guys can see that we have no audio feed right now. There are some, like I said, for the proceedings that started earlier at 8:30, they have a live audio feed for these two. Nothing yet for the guys, but there's nothing, and this should give us hope. There's nothing for any of the ones that started at 9 a.m. What I'm thinking happened, and what I hope is happening, is that they're running late from the stuff that was going on that was supposed to be at 8:30. It looks like they're running behind. And so I'm assuming that that's what's happening here, is that they're just running a little late. And I'm hoping that we're still going to get the audio feed, because this is important. Everybody needs to hear it. We've all been waiting for this. We've all been praying for the guys. You know, it's been years now, and they don't get a long time. You know, they get 10 minutes each today, and that's it. 10 minutes to go over all of the major issues that they want to raise on appeal, which is not a lot of time, to be perfectly honest. But it's better than nothing, I guess. Just gonna refresh and keep refreshing. Still nothing. Still nothing. So we're just hanging out here. You get to hang out with me and talk to me until this works, because what else is there to do? All right, let's see. What we could do is we can go over some of the stuff that they're going to bring up at the briefing today, at oral argument. It should be the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I think that's true. Everybody probably agrees with that statement. I don't think anybody would find that remotely controversial. All right, so while we wait and everybody's time is wasted, I'm going to bring up Barry's brief, because we can go over the statements here. This is the longer one, and just to be honest, I mean, I'll just give my opinion here. I'm not I don't want to be rude or insulting to any of the appeals lawyers. I'm sure that they are working I'm sure they're working hard, but you know, I don't have a lot of faith in them. I don't have a lot of faith in these people. I have not a lot of faith in any of these court appointed lawyers, first of all. But if you look at Adam's appeals brief, for example, I believe his appeals lawyer is Nolder. Nolder is the name. He used to be Mr. Nolder before being an appeals lawyer. He used to be a federal prosecutor. When you read his appeals brief, it sounds like it was written by a prosecutor, and it seems like it's conceding a lot of the government's narrative, or it almost reads like he kind of lifted parts of this, like word for word, from the government's complaint. He's using their language. He concedes that the government proved Adam had a, quote, predisposition because of things he said and things he posted online while the government had numerous people influencing him. So, like, why would you say that? Why would you, if your job is to defend Adam in his interest and you know that this is a big case of government entrapment, why would you concede that there was a predisposition when there wasn't? It's not like Adam had a criminal record that you could point to and be like, oh, yes, look, he obviously had a predisposition because look at his criminal record. No, he didn't have one. He doesn't have one. Okay, so no Bobo cameo yet. No, Bobo's actually laying down. Bobo's a wild creature, as you guys know. She likes to get into trouble. She's resting now after working herself up. No, she takes up the whole bed, though. She will, like last night, she is laying next to me. She starts off by laying on top of me while I'm sleeping. Then I turn on my side and I put her next to me. Well, I wake up and I'm like, she's taken over the whole Bobo has taken over my entire like area on the bed and I'm like squeezed into a corner. I'm going, how did I get over here? And then I look over and there's Bobo in my spot, like, of course. American Constitution Society mission statement, quote, our mission is to support and advocate for laws and legal systems that redress the founding failures of our Constitution. You got to be kidding me. Okay, so one of these judges who's on a 3-judge panel today to listen to the oral arguments in Adam and Barry's appeals is part of a group who thinks that our founding fathers had failures and that there were failures in our Constitution. Yeah, Furby Slayer says so. Change the Constitution is their goal. Wow. Wiki says they were founded in response to Bush v. Gore and to counteract the Federalist Society specifically. Oh, great. Why did Trump appoint this woman again to the Eastern District prior to her being a Biden appointment to the 6th Circuit? You can take a lawyer out of the prosecution, but it's hard to take the prosecutor out of the lawyer. Yes, apparently. And so I have no problem telling these people to their faces exactly what I think of them and exactly, what my issues with them are, because there's just too much at stake here. It sounds like a Soros outfit. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. You know what? Let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see this. Can everyone see that okay? Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, hopefully, oh, that's a little too much. We zoomed in a little too much. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that all right. And I don't need to zoom in more. Can everybody read that okay? Hopefully you guys should be able to. All right. Let's see. These are the statement of issues for the appeals briefs. Let's see. Oh. All right, so this one's from Barry's statement of facts, whether Barry's conspiracy convictions are based on evidence that is insufficient as a matter of law and in violation of his right to due process. We all know the answer to that. Is Nashville a different time zone? Jessica asked. Maybe it's 9 their time. No, that's still Eastern time, as far as I know. So it should be now, but it looks like they're putting them up after the fact. So some of the live audio streams have been made available, but these were for hearings that were going on an hour ago. It looks like we are going to have to wait until 10 to get access to the audio. Oh, okay. Joshua says Nashville is Central Time Zone. Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. Your girl does not do time zones. As everyone here is aware of already. Oh, that's so funny. I didn't think to check that at all whatsoever. Okay, so she is who Michigan Senators Stabenow and Peters nominated for the position. Interesting. I don't know anything about these particular senators, so I wouldn't really know what that means. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought some of Tennessee was Eastern. That's why I assumed it was Eastern because like I said yesterday, the audio was working fine for all of these at the right time. Yeah, it just gives you more time to read the briefs exactly. Oh no. No, Corey, how dare you? How dare you? You guys are not being supportive of my journey of quitting coffee. You coffee lovers. You know what's so funny about that too, Corey, is that I got up at 6 o'clock this morning to prepare for this. And yeah, he goes, I went there. And I was thinking when I got up early, I was like, you know what you should do? You should treat yourself to a nice coffee today since you're getting up early and you're streaming. And you guys know I don't like streaming. I hate it. I like to like pre-record my videos. So yeah, anyways, I'm just not a big streamer. I do it when I have to, but I was telling myself like, oh, maybe you should just have one little coffee and then no one will have to know. But I didn't do it. I resisted the urge to have it. And you know what? I have just been doing, even though I don't like it, and I did refer to it as crappy water, I've been drinking tea instead. I don't drink iced tea though. I think that's disgusting and atrocious. I will only drink warm tea that has honey in it. Okay. Warm tea with honey. But you're probably right. If I did have the caffeine, I probably would have caught that, or I at least would have thought to check, instead of just like assuming like, oh no, I know this is definitely right. Chastity says, I'm also CST and I'm in Florida. That's also so weird because I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in West Palm Beach and we were always in the Eastern time zone. It's so bizarre. Yep. Okay, let's see. Is anything else going on? So, we got 20 minutes here, it sounds like, to hang out. Oh, okay. Doesn't tea have caffeine in it? Mr. Smith asks. Some tea does, not all tea. You can have tea that doesn't have caffeine. You can get chamomile tea, which is like a relaxing tea. You can get dandelion chai, does not have any caffeine in it. It's just it's tasty. Yeah, it's just like because you're having your morning coffee is like if you're from an Italian family, um, like we were raised drinking coffee. We were raised having coffee for breakfast from like the time we were in kindergarten. If you're from an Italian family, you understand. And so I could not even imagine, I couldn't remember a time of like what it felt like to not have coffee or to not be drinking coffee. I didn't know what my energy felt like. I had no idea because I've literally been drinking it every single day since like kindergarten, in various forms. But I am telling you, like, we are okay. So Joshua says Nashville's the middle of Tennessee. We're Eastern time zone from the east tip until the plateau between Knoxville and Nashville. Oh, that's so weird. What a weird breakdown. State senators can nominate their U.S. district judges in their state. Okay, I see how it is. Interesting. Radix had tea cakes with her grandma. No, my grandma would give me coffee and buttered crackers for breakfast in kindergarten. And I got to hear about the Great Depression and World War II, which was always, the topic of conversation. But in any case, since stopping drinking coffee, I have noticed remarkable improvements in my sleep, especially. So I definitely go to sleep. I get tired earlier, and I will sleep through the night. Um, Jessica says, I called the court to complain about the audio and they told me about the time zone. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I love that. I was actually thinking, I was planning on calling to myself just to make sure it was going to be, that the audio was going to be available. But then I was like, since I was able to listen to it yesterday, I was like, oh no, this seems to work pretty good. I don't need to do that. But I have noticed like serious improvement since stopping drinking coffee. And I say this as somebody who is still today like a coffee lover. I love coffee. I love the way it tastes. I love the way it smells. I love coffee ice cream. It's actually probably my favorite ice cream, is the espresso chip. The espresso chip from Toby's. If you don't have a Toby's, if you have a Brewster's, theirs is also very similar to that, but I think it's called something different. I think it's called coffee chocolate chip or something from Brewster's. Very good, like amazingly good. But as much as I love coffee, I certainly would not go back to drinking it every single day. I used to throw tantrums if I didn't have a white mocha every single day. Jeremy is in chat. He'll tell you. Adam's mom is in chat. She'll tell you. I have to have a white mocha. And when I was traveling to film for the documentary, when we were in Antrim County, I'm like, where am I going to find a coffee place out in the middle of nowhere? It's going to have a white mocha. It's so silly. But like, I liked my fancy coffees, that was part of like my morning routine was having my white mocha. And then I like to just sit down and kind of like read. I like to go over like headlines from news. So I would like read the news in the morning while I drink my coffee. And that's like part of a morning ritual. So you just have to get replace your morning ritual with a different one. One thing that oh my gosh, get out of here. One thing that I have noticed is with the coffee is like, not just the sleep, but the hydration. Like I was not somebody that drank like multiple coffees a day. Like some of you guys drink coffee all day. I don't know how you do that. I would always have my morning white mocha, but just one coffee. So a small white mocha has maybe like 2 shots of espresso in it. I don't think it's a lot of caffeine, or at least it didn't feel like it. Although it might be 4. I'm not quite sure. But in any case, I was not drinking a lot. I never had coffee really after 12 o'clock noon. And if I did, I would start feeling really weird because I almost have like an allergy to caffeine. Caffeine makes me very silly. And if I have it after 12 o'clock, Lord have mercy, God help anybody who has to be around me, because I will just talk nonstop until about 3 p.m. and then I crash. And that's why I never had any I wouldn't drink more than 1 coffee, and I would only drink it early in the morning, like when I first woke up at like 7. But now this is not the case at all. Right now, I wake up and I feel perfectly hydrated. I just drink my water and I have a little cup of hot tea with honey in the morning, and that is it for the rest of the day. I just drink water. Bill says I drink a few pots a day. No. Oh my gosh, you guys are out of control. You're making the time go by fast before we get the audio feed coming in. And I think it's actually a good thing that we got the time zone issue, because we've got about 200 people watching on the various platforms we're live on. We've got more than were listening when we first started, so more people will actually hear it when it goes live in about 10 minutes, which makes me really happy. But I don't miss the coffee. So I would get my coffee and then I'd go directly to the gym because I like to work out first thing in the morning and then shower and get ready for the day. I am not somebody who can work out in the afternoon. No way. I would just be too tired, and I just like to start my morning off with exercise. I would drink my coffee before going to the gym, and one of the girls there was like, "What are you doing? You're dehydrating yourself, and then you're coming here and working out." And I'd be walking into the gym with a coffee in my hand. Like, how ridiculous is that? And then getting on a stair climber. Who does stuff like this? Honestly. And since I have stopped drinking coffee, I've noticed like I'm more hydrated when I'm working out at the gym and stuff like that. Oh, thank you so much. You too. Um, I really have. I'm not making this up. I really have felt an improvement, and I was not serious like when I first decided to quit drinking coffee. It was not something that I was super serious about. I wasn't like, it wasn't a big plan, or like, it's not like I had researched the benefits of it prior to doing it. I just, I talked to like a couple people who had just recently given it up, and they told me some of the benefits, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I could try that. Let me see how I feel." And then I found out how it was trying to go without coffee for one day. You don't know because you don't think of coffee or caffeine as like a drug, but it actually is. It most certainly is. And so, when oh, okay, I figured because I recognized your Avi, I thought you just changed your handle. So I recognized you. Some black coffee is a great pre workout. Is that true? I'm not sure if I believe that that's true, but okay, I'll take it. I've never been somebody who's been able to drink black coffee, though. I will tell you that. I've always had to have my cream in my coffee. Well, the joke used to be I take my cream and sugar with a little bit of coffee. But I was not like, when I decided to stop drinking coffee, I thought maybe I would do it for a week and just do like a caffeine fast or something. I wasn't planning, like, I didn't have this idea in mind that I was going to make a big lifestyle change or something like that. But after going through the first day of like having no coffee, I got these major migraines, and I realized like, wow, I had no idea that this is what it was like drinking coffee every day and then going a day without it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea like it affected me that much, or that I was so reliant on it. And then the feeling too of the first few days of not having coffee, your mind is in a total like fog. I'm already somebody who's kind of like very disorganized. I can be organized. It's just that I have to like make it a point to organize everything because I have a really good memory, and I tend to like, I know where everything is, even if it's all over the place, but I have to make it a point to like organize myself or keep myself to a schedule because I'm not good at that. When I didn't have coffee, I could not remember how to do like basic things that I do every single day, or I could, but like it felt weird. I felt physically weaker, and I just didn't feel strong and alert. It was very bizarre, and I didn't like that feeling. And then I decided to, instead of going cold turkey, I was like, this is too hard. Because I didn't know how addicted to coffee I was until I tried to go without it. I then decided to go to decaf first, and then to transition from decaf to green tea, and then transition to just like regular tea without caffeine. So I did it that way, but it was very like, it was weird going the first few days without coffee, the first week even, I would say. But after that, once you get over the headaches, you really do notice that like you feel all the things that you think coffee is doing for you, like making you more alert in the morning or giving you like that morning boost or whatever. Once you get it out of your system and you go without coffee, you can have that naturally. Like you can wake up and drink your water, go for a run or go to the gym instead, and you still end up getting that like morning boost from that. Like there are natural things you could do instead, if that makes sense. And that's what I've been doing. So you guys do know the lectern guy. I think his real name is Adam, but we all know him as the lectern guy. He told me that's what he did when he quit caffeine, is that he replaced like drinking his morning coffee with working out instead. So go on a morning run, go to the gym, do something where you kind of like exert yourself, but not too much, just a little bit. And that gives you the endorphins. It gives you like that morning boost, but in a natural way. At least that's my experience. I know everybody is different. And there are some people who swear by coffee and who, love their caffeine and they have their thing. And, I know there are benefits of coffee too. I'm not denying that or anything like that. There certainly are. So anyways, all right. For people who are just coming in now wondering what is going on and why we are not live now, it looks like your girl made a mistake by assuming that they were on the Eastern time zone, which apparently they are not. They're Central time. So we should be going live here. They should be going live in a few minutes. And then I'm going to have to actually cut it this early. We're only going to listen to the defense because that'll take up the first 20 minutes. I have an interview between 11 and 12. I'm going to be going on the Jason Burmis show to give everybody an update on the oral arguments after we hear them. So that is going to be a full hour-long interview. You guys should check that out. On all the platforms he's on. That'll be later today, and I think it'll go up today. I don't know if it's done live. I think it's pre-recorded, but I think it still goes out the same day, so you should be able to watch it later today. Christina doing a TED Talk on coffee. Yes. Thank you, Time Zones, for allowing for that, which nobody asked for and no one wanted to hear. I will give everybody a documentary update too while we're sitting here waiting. I think that we have tentatively raised enough to do a final trip. So if you don't know, we've been in post-production and we're editing, we're trying to put the story together, and my editor told me, like, we do not have enough B-roll footage. We don't have a documentary without more footage because there's just not enough to fill in to tell the story. There are times where I have to do a voiceover and we need footage we can show on screen while I'm doing the voiceover and to transition scenes to introduce people. So we, filming a documentary is very difficult for people who aren't aware. You can't just, it's not just showing up and interviewing people. There has to be intentionality in your shots of like what you're trying to accomplish because your time is so limited all the time. The last time we were doing this, you guys know, we had barely raised enough funds to make these trips for the initial interviews. And we were so pressed for time. We didn't have time to film any B-roll with anybody at all. We literally just got interviews, and some of them we were squeezing in like 2 or 3 in one day, which is just crazy. So we have to go back, and we need to go for several days to film more B-roll and to get various things that we need to tell the story, certain things, places that we're talking about, places that the guys went to. Like, we need to have footage of that stuff for the film so people can see themselves. And so I think we've raised enough to at least accomplish that trip to go get the B-roll done. If anyone wants to support that effort, the documentary fundraiser is up on the documentary website, which is just the letter K and kfilm.com. It's kandkfilm.com/donate if you want to make a donation to support the work. we will be doing that. That's going to be very important. I think we're going to be doing that trip next month for the B-roll, but then we also need to do one more trip after that to South Carolina. So I'll have to continue fundraising for that one. But if you don't know, like, this stuff is very expensive. I'm coming from Virginia, traveling to Michigan. So typically I have to get either a hotel or an Airbnb. If we have to do filming in there, I have to make sure it's one that allows for commercial photography. If you want one that looks nice, typically you have to spend more money. So it can be very expensive doing this stuff. That's why it takes so long, frankly, because we've been fundraising all of this on our own and crowdsourcing it. And that's how this has gotten done, which I think, by the way, has been amazing. I had no idea when we first started that we would be this far along into the process and would have accomplished as much as we've accomplished. I'm very proud of it, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. It sucks too, like knowing the footage you have and having to wait until the process is done. I get so excited, I want to share everything with everybody. I want everybody to see all the hard work we've been doing, but I also don't want to give stuff away because I want people to still watch the film. All right, so let me go back to that was a long tirade. I want to go back to reading the statement of issues. This is what we're going to hear at oral arguments, which should be starting any minute now. The link should be coming in. We'll be playing the live audio feed. The first issue is whether Barry's convictions were based on evidence that was insufficient as a matter of law and a violation of his right to due process. I would say that's the same for both Adam and Barry. Whether any rational trier of fact could have found beyond a reasonable doubt that Barry was predisposed to commit the alleged, quote, conspiracy offenses. Now, this is an issue, as I said, as it relates to Adam's appeals brief. Adam's appellate lawyer, Mr. Nalder, he was court appointed, by the way, and was a federal prosecutor, has already conceded predisposition because of things that Adam said and texted online while he was being influenced, by the government, which you cannot say that's a predisposition. Those are, what's the word? Like, that's tainted. You can't look at those statements and the messages online, the things he was saying online, just as itself, because that is not representative of his background and his actual disposition. That's him under the influence of FBI informants and provocateurs. So you would need to go back prior to that and look at the things that he was saying in order to say whether or not, or assess whether he had a predisposition. The easiest way to do that is just look at the fact that he doesn't have a criminal record. Clearly, he's not predisposed to commit some massive conspiracy and to be the, quote, ringleader of it, when he's never even, stolen a candy bar. It's a little bit silly, isn't it? In the real world, this is not how things work. People who become criminals, they go down a journey of crime where it starts with petty offenses. It starts with maybe shoplifting, maybe things like that. And then it escalates, right? You can see a escalation in the person's criminal history and background. You can look at Adam and see none of that. So it's ridiculous. All right, we've got live audio stream, so we're going to go ahead and pull it up now, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate it. We are now going live. Oral arguments. Let's go. Why is this not working? Sorry, guys. I'm bringing it up. Came up in a new window.
Court's in session, and the clerk may call the first case.
Can everybody hear it okay?
Case number 23-5700, Christy Andrews versus TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group, Inc. Oral argument not to exceed 15 minutes per side.
What?
Mr. Arsenegas, you may proceed for the appellant.
This is not it. Why are we hearing this one?
Good morning, Your Honors. My name is Daniel Arsenegas. I represent the appellant, Christy.
Okay. That's what that's the link that they gave us. I'll show you again. That's what I clicked on. That's so weird because they're supposed to be first today. This is so weird. Let me try moving it back to see what's going on. I want to make sure we haven't missed anything.
Hear ye, hear ye. The United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit is now in session. All persons having business before this honorable court, draw near, give attention, and ye shall. God save the United States.
Okay, so that's what we were listening to.
The best case with respect to this issue is, I believe, EOC or
Did they get this wrong?
EOC versus JA.
Okay, I want to check something because I think they may have gotten the streams confused. I think they gave the wrong one for Adam and Barry's. I think they gave it to the other one. Because that was Christy, not...
Kelly
Here we
Stevens,
go.
Clerk of Court. I have a motion this morning. May it please the court, it is my privilege and pleasure to move
That's
the admission
exactly what happened.
of the law clerk from the chambers of Joan L. Larson. Dominic Andrew Canonico
Okay.
is a member of the State Bar of
think we're good
Indiana and
now.
is otherwise qualified under the rules of this
So
court.
they switched
So
them.
this
They
time I'd like to ask
confused the
Dominic
one
to come up
that
and
was
join. I believe Dominic is a
underneath
Nashville
with
native
Adam
and
and
has some
Barry's.
family here.
This is the correct one. If you look at the stream, what it says here.
All right, well,
Larson, Riedler,
ordinarily,
and Davis.
it's not the judge's role to call her own witnesses or call herself as a witness, but I'm going to do that. Just to make a statement.
I believe Dominic is a Nashville native from the chambers of Joan.
Tennessee District Court, Middle District of Tennessee. We thank them for letting us use their facilities and welcoming us to Nashville. Before we begin the oral argument portion, this morning we have a motion.
Interesting.
Good morning, Your Honors. Kelly Stevens, Clerk of Court. I have a motion this morning. May it please the court, it is my privilege and pleasure to move the admission of the law clerk from the chambers of Joan L. Larson. Dominic Andrew Canonico is a member of the State Bar of Indiana and is otherwise qualified under the rules of this court. So at this time, I'd like to ask Dominic to come up and join. I believe Dominic is a Nashville native and has some family here.
This is
All right,
so weird.
well, ordinarily, it's not the court and to the legal profession. So, and I grant it.
Fantastic.
Okay, it's granted.
Do you
Great.
solemnly swear that you will conduct yourself, support and defend the Constitution? Thank you. Thank you, Your Honors.
Okay.
Please the court. I'm Tim Sweeney on behalf of Barry Croft.
Here we
And if I could
go.
Please have 3 minutes for rebuttal. I would
Yes.
appreciate that. I am going to address, Your Honors, the hearsay issue, the non-authorized vicarious admissions. I think it's an important issue in this case. My colleague, Mr. Nolder, will address the Remmer issue and the juror issue. Those are the
Okay, so
two
they're
issues we'll
working
focus on.
together.
This was a close
Sweeney
case.
and Nolder
This
working
case,
together.
This trial. We know
Good.
that because trial one resulted in 2 acquittals and the hung jury, and it went to trial 2. And the critical defense for Mr. Croft and Mr. Fox was entrapment. That aspect of the case, certainly that was one part of it.
Yeah.
And critical to that, I believe,
You
and
think?
the trial lawyers believed when they filed their motions in limine, was we got to be able to get in all these communications between these informants, people like Chappell and Plunk and Robeson, those 3 in particular,
Yes.
and these
That's
defendants, as well as the communications between the informants and their bosses at the FBI. And
Damn
the
right.
judge really put the bar down on that and disallowed that almost in its entirety, to the point that
Yes.
it disregarded, we believe, the authority, the precedent from this court, that Branham case, which is really pretty clear. This rule, 801D2D, is made for this type of a case where entrapment is so critical. where you do
Where
have
it's obvious.
communications between government agents, and you want those communications to be treated as admissions of the government.
Yeah,
That's what the
that's
rule
what they
is.
are.
They aren't hearsay. They're
They're not
substantive
hearsay.
evidence that can be admitted regardless of whether the witness testified.
You can't say that it's hearsay when you're admitting portions from the same audio that sound incriminating against these men. You can't then say, oh, anything exculpatory coming from the same recording is now automatically hearsay. It's literally absurd.
So on a proper reading of Branham, as you would see it, whose statements should have come in? All three of the informants?
Yes, Your Honor. Right.
A-
Correct.
And why is that? Why is Branham that broad?
Well, I mean, these were statements made by agents of the government. These were agents of the government, no question.
But that's the question. Why are they agents of the government? I mean,
Are you
would your reading of
serious?
Branham extend to any confidential informant off the
being
street? Somebody
paid
comes in,
by
they
the
say, hey,
government.
you know, I saw this guy dealing drugs on the
That's
corner
not what
of
happened.
4th and Post.
Well, there was more than
Nice
just
hypothetical,
these people weren't
lady.
just, you know, people that showed up with information. These were
No.
people who were working as part of the team.
They
This
were
was a prosecution team,
introducing
an investigation
together.
team. They weren't somebody that just came in off the street and said, I have some
No.
information. They were paid, especially Chappell. Chappell was paid $55,000, plus he got a free computer. I mean,
He got
and they were-
relocated to a new house, got a free
here's
computer, got a
an interesting
laptop,
fact.
got
I
a
think
new
a detail that's
smartwatch.
emblematic of how closely they worked together, how much they were part of this team. 3,500 text messages between Chappell and
Adam.
Chambers, the head of this.
Oh, and Chambers.
Investigative
Probably the
unit at
same with
FBI. That's
Chappell and
astounding.
Adam.
That's 16 a day.
How many,
Yep.
how many of those were admitted into evidence?
Virtually none of them.
None.
Well, some of them.
None.
Some of them were.
Some of them were.
Yeah,
Some
some
of
of
those were.
Three,
But that
maybe?
was the
Three
only
messages
exception,
out of
Judge,
all of them?
that Judge Junker recognized was that if it's something that an FBI agent says, that's okay if it's an employed FBI agent. But he drew the line. He said, but not for somebody like Dan.
That's
Dan's don't
ridiculous.
come in unless he's parroting the words of his supervisor.
Not true.
That's not the rule. That collapses C into D. C under 801D2 is it's made by a person whom the party authorized to make the statement. Judge Jonker read that to say, okay, if it's authorized by Chambers, it's okay. But that's C. That reads out D. D is the unauthorized vicarious admissions. And a lot of those are going to be things the government doesn't like.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be things that these guys maybe shouldn't have said, but they had the authority to say it because they're working within the scope
For
of
the
the
government.
agency. And it's
Hello?
really an unfair, I'm sorry, Judge.
Is there any line, I mean, you've told me that Dan
Here she
Dan
goes.
Chappelle, I think is his name, was on the on payroll. He's making $55,000. He's embedded in the organization.
No, he's
Is there a
leading
line
the
to be drawn between
organization.
him and the other two? And would that make a difference to your case?
No, I don't think there is a line here because I think particularly
Robeson's
Robeson
Even worse.
was equally embedded. You know, I mean,
Not
Robeson
just
ran,
embedded.
you know,
They
you go back,
created
you know, the
the group.
Dublin thing, the Cambria FTX, the People's thing, the Luther thing. I mean, Robeson was sort of the guy
He's
that's bringing all this
organizing
stuff
all of
together.
it.
He's actively involved in organizing
He's
and
organizing
promoting
it.
these
He's paying
critical
for it.
events
He's
that were
putting it
used
on
by the
A
government to convict
fraudulent
these two men.
charity credit card.
Robeson is hip joined to Chambers and to Chappell. They are
That's
part
right.
of the team. And I think that's,
So even if so let's say we think you're right, that the district court misapplied Branham, why is that error not harmless given the evidence
What?
of predisposition in this case?
What evidence
oh,
of
geez, I just don't think it can be
predisposition?
viewed as harmless. First of all, I think it's structural error. I start there and I
let's say we
briefed that, but
disagree with
if you
that.
don't, if you
wow.
reject that,
Let's say
it's
I disagree
there-
with
it's
that.
Nils' burden to show harmlessness. Number one, I don't think he can meet the burden. It's not mine to show that
it's
it wasn't.
Nils'
So it's
bird.
their
That's
burden.
right,
Number
Nils
two,
Kessler,
I mean,
clown.
take a look, if you would, and you may
Excuse me.
already, this
I'm getting
attachment
worked
to
up.
the motion. It's 200 examples of text messages. This is at 383-1, page 2575. And it goes through all these different text messages that could and should have been admitted. And
Yeah,
I
they
did this
should
last
have
night. I went
been.
through and okay, on this topic, so for example, the drive-by on the 29th of August, you see with these text messages, this was the government's plan. I mean,
The
this was
government
their
arranged
drive-by.
it.
So is it your
They're
position
inviting
that all of
people.
these statements, I want to make sure you can hear me, all of those statements are really going to the inducement prong of entrapment for the defense?
They go to both, Your Honor. I think
How do they go to predisposition?
because one of the 5 things you're
This
supposed
is
to look at
nuts.
in predisposition, and this is in our brief.
I just want to make an interjection here. They're not even letting this man finish his sentences. He can't even talk without these 2 women. By the way, the first one was Judge Larson. The second woman to interrupt is now Dawkins Davis. Both of these women are arguing like prosecutors. It's stunning. I don't know what to say.
The nature of the government's inducement or persuasion. That's the 5th element of the predisposition elements the courts look at. And
Predisposition.
similarly,
Such
whether the
nonsense.
suggestion of criminal activity was made by the government, that's the 2nd of the 5 you look at when you're looking at predisposition. On 2 of the 5, it's in the wheelhouse of what did the government do? How involved were they? You know, and you've got these text messages which shows the Ypsilanti thing, that was all the government. The
Yep.
9/12 drive-by, the nighttime thing where they drove 45 minutes to pick up Barry. They were so involved, they were deciding who was going to be in which car and who was going to be sitting in which seat. I mean, this was I use the metaphor, and I know it's only a metaphor
Yeah, the
of a Broadway
government
play.
literally was
That's
driving
what
the
this
car.
was. They were the director. They were the director. They were the writer. They were the music.
Some of this evidence did come in. So one text message that came in between an informant and an agent: keep working to solve the differences within the group. Try to show them that they were brought together by Croft and he has good ideas. You just have to find common ground. Show them the good ideas Croft brought and say what is workable and what is not. Compromise may be needed on both sides.
Right.
So that I think goes to your point that there was some direction here by the informants, maybe schemed by the FBI. And so it's not that this whole line of argument didn't come in. Some evidence came in. Certainly these arguments were made. And entrapment is, as my colleagues are noting, entrapment's not an easy defense to
Yes.
prove.
Well, but that's
We
the
know.
thing, I think. I mean, if you look at this
It
attachment,
should be
you kind of
easier to prove.
look at
though.
all the things that
You should be
weren't
able to admit
allowed.
evidence.
Juries are persuaded by evidence.
Yeah.
And this was a close case. We know that by virtue of trial 1. This additional evidence would have made the difference.
You're damn
Because,
right
you know,
it
you
would
can
have.
have one little piece. You're right, Judge Riedler. There was some of this got in, but it was not the stuff that 801D2D permits. That stuff was all shut down.
That's right.
These guys were entitled to the benefit of 801D2D. There shouldn't be a trial against these 2 guys that says you can't rely on 801D2D, because that's what this trial was. And that's an unfair trial. And it may very well be true that some of it did get in, but not enough of it and if all of it had been permitted, it would have been a different trial.
Yeah,
The
they would
ability
have
to
been
persuade
out.
jurors
We
really
know
matters.
that.
All right, I think you're over your time, although you don't seem to have a light, which would be
You
very
know,
helpful.
I do see it, and I do know
Oh,
I'm
you see
over
it, and I see it. Okay, I
I apologize.
didn't realize where I was supposed to be looking, unless my colleagues have further questions.
Thank you.
This is what you get. You wait years and this is all you get. 7 minutes. It was supposed to be 10.
Good morning. May it please the court, I'm Steve Nolder, and I represent the appellant Adam Fox in this case, and I would like to reserve 2 minutes of rebuttal. As my
that's
friend
why,
Mr.
for rebuttal.
Sweeney said, I would like to focus my
So frustrating.
presentation today on the first issue in my brief, and that deals with the Remmer issue. And in that, we allege that the district court abused its discretion by depriving Mr. Fox of a constitutionally meaningful Remmer hearing.
It's true.
And this circuit stands alone in placing the burden on the defendant to show that a juror was biased. And the standard is that the defendant must show there's a colorable claim of extraneous influence that somehow likely affected the jury's verdict. So that's the standard, that's the burden that the defendant must show and must come forward with credible evidence to demonstrate that in order to be entitled to a Remmer hearing. And so if that's our starting point, I think it was after the first trial day, Mr. Blanchard, Mr. Croft's lawyer, received a telephone call from a person who identified himself by name and number and provided information about juror number 6 that if true.
Mr. Nolder, is
Yes, sir.
your argument mostly a procedural one in the sense that the judge obviously did a lot here. The judge had his clerk
What?
reach out, the judge talked to the juror. Is your argument
Are you
basically
serious,
just that when the judge
Riedler?
talked to the juror, defense counsel had to be there, or is there more to it?
Well, there are two
Did you
two
read the
opportunities here, I
brief,
think, that
clown?
the judge erred. The first would be on August the 12th, when the judge does have this ex parte meeting with the juror in his chambers.
Yeah.
And we believe at that point in time that there was sufficient evidence to justify the lawyer's participation, presence, and questioning of the juror. And on August the 11th.
And then
Yes, sir.
your basis for that is what? Because our case law maybe is a little less friendly to parties objecting or who have concerns about jurors than maybe some others. Ironically, we also stand alone on the first issue, so we have some interesting case law at issue in this case. But what's your best case for the need for the defense counsel to be there every time a juror,
Well,
judge talks to a
nonsense.
juror?
On August
Are
the
you
11th,
kidding
when the judge informed the parties.
These were allegations about juror misconduct, about a man who said he wanted to hang Adam and Barry. This was before he heard any of the evidence. When he first got onto the case, he said, "Oh, I hope I get onto the Whitmer case. I'm going to HANG those guys." Are you kidding me? Like, listening to Riedler here. Yes, it was completely inappropriate to bring this man into chambers in a private session without the defense lawyers being there, without it being recorded, and to tell him, "Hey, we don't have any evidence that you said this, but did you say this?" And then go, "Oh, okay." When he says, "Oh, you don't have any evidence and I'm not under oath." Okay, no, then I don't remember saying that. It's ridiculous.
That he was going to do this in an ex parte manner. He cites the parties to U.S. versus Gagnon, which is a U.S. Supreme Court decision. And the irony of Gagnon is, in that case, the judge, after learning of potential misconduct or potential bias by the juror, he invites the juror to his chambers. And belatedly, he then asked Mr. Gagnon's lawyer to come to chambers as well. And after the judge continues his examination of the juror, then he invites Mr. Gagnon's lawyer to question the juror, which the lawyer does, asks 2 questions, and satisfies himself that the juror could continue to be fair and impartial. So that's first and foremost, the Gagnon case would support our position that the lawyer should have been present at that time because there was a colorable claim. And if you look at the Stafford decision now,
There's the rule. I mean, is the rule every time a judge talks to a juror about an issue related to the trial?
An issue related to the trial?
Well, if you look at...
No, Judge Riedler, when there's an allegation of a colorable claim of misconduct, then yes, the defense lawyer should be there.
I don't necessarily believe that's the ironclad rule, Your Honor. But if you look at the Stafford decision, which I cite, it's a Seventh Circuit decision in my first brief, these sorts of mid-trial meetings should only occur when there's a strong indicator of bias. And if that's the standard, there's a strong indicator of bias justifying this mid-trial meeting with a juror, I think that also translates into there's a colorable claim of extraneous influence. And so that would be my position, that at that point in time, that the judge should have invited counsel to be present and to question the juror. Because if you buy the Seventh Circuit's decision in Stafford, there was at least a strong indicator of bias. Otherwise, there shouldn't have been the meeting in the first place.
So from your reading, a strong indicator of bias is the same as a colorable claim of bias.
I
don't read those as being the same thing. So I guess I'd like a little bit more explanation as to why you think that that's the same thing.
Well, again, just looking at colorable, I think that's something that's plausible. And strong to me would be even a higher standard. And so if there's a strong indicator of bias, by its very nature, the subset would assume that it's a colorable claim as well, just based on the logical and natural reading of that.
So here your position is that there was a strong indicator of bias?
Otherwise, that mid-trial meeting wouldn't have occurred. Judge Yonker must have believed there was some substance to the allegation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have convened this meeting with the juror on August 12th.
Obviously.
And I think that there was additional information that came forward in this meeting the juror indicated at this meeting, and then one of the things I assume if you don't buy my argument that the lawyers should have been there, then you have to look at whether Judge Yonker's questioning of the juror was fulsome, whether it was probative, whether it was meant to ferret out this issue. And to steal a phrase from Judge Moore in Lanier 3, or whether it was bobtailed. And in this case, Judge Yonker, after the niceties of meeting the juror in chambers, how did he lead? He said to the juror, I don't have any of this on
Evidence.
tape.
Yeah.
I don't have anybody saying this
And
under
you're
oath.
not under oath.
But here's what the allegation is. And the juror, of course, denied it. But what the juror then followed up with is, hey, I'm aware there was a first trial, indicating you followed the first trial. 2, that he did tell
Unbelievable. So he lied.
coworkers that he had jury service. And 3, when Judge Yonker asked him, did you ever make any comments that would indicate bias or prejudice against Mr. Croft and Mr. Fox? There wasn't an ironclad denial. He said, I don't remember. And so that's the record as the hearing ended on August the 12th. So then the investigation by the defense continues as the trial continues. And person number 2's, he's located, he's interviewed. And person 2, he says much the same thing as person 1. Again, it was hearsay. These comments were made directly to either person 1 or person 2, person 1 being the caller to Mr. Blanchard. But nonetheless, it was a parallel discussion between the investigator and person 2. Person 2 uses the same phraseology to describe what he heard the statements were.
Post-trial?
This was as the trial was going on. I think
This is
it was
not post-trial,
filed
Judge
in an
Riedler.
affidavit
This is
to
as
a
it's
post-trial
happening.
motion
This
for a
clown is
rumor.
talking
It's just
about it,
Judge
which he's not
Yonker,
supposed
when
to
he
be doing.
Initially had the conversation with the juror, would not have had access to all the information that came in later on.
That's right.
So
At
it's
that
a little
point.
hard to criticize him for
Oh,
not
wow.
knowing things that were investigated
He
later
knew there
on.
was a first trial. He should have been
I agree with
dismissed.
that as it
Exactly.
relates to the first
Because
interlude with the
they
juror.
So
lie.
now we're talking about post-trial, sort of
Yeah.
after.
That's right. Because like I said, there were two opportunities
This is
here.
so
The
frustrating.
mid-trial interview with the
Right.
juror, as well as the post-trial motion for a rumor hearing.
So post-trial now it's a little bit different because
Yeah, it is.
the initial meetings already happened.
Absolutely.
So post-trial, you're now saying, just looking at all the evidence, the juror should have been excluded, or in other words, I understand your point about the first meeting, which is the judge should have recognized there's enough here that I need to bring the parties in and discuss this more.
Right.
But the judge doesn't have the information that you bring
This
out
is insane.
later.
They're not
So
getting
what's the difference
any
between
of the issues here.
how should we look at
talked
the
about the time limits on the
post-trial
defense at this point
meeting,
on Caleb Franks'
or
cross-examination at the
hearing
retrial,
where this
which
additional
was
evidence is presented
limited,
to the judge?
while
Then what
Judge
was supposed to
Yonker
happen?
gave a countdown.
And I want to answer your question, but I am over time, so if I can answer the question. Well, the investigation continued as the trial was going on, and so that the defendants could establish a colorable claim of extraneous influence. And so they developed person 2, interviewed person 2. Person 2, also a colleague of the juror, heard the same statements attributed to the juror, and he added additional comments about, he was afraid to come forward because juror number 6's mother was a
It's his
colleague,
boss.
a work colleague at the same business, and she had
I
an
guess,
executive.
or at least I have a sense of what the evidence is. I was
Yes.
just trying to
Oh,
distinguish
thank
between
you,
the
Judge
errors
Riedler.
at each stage.
Well,
I think they're a little different.
I think that it only became more compelling after the trial because person 2, person 3, and everything that was developed by the defense investigator, and couple that with everything that was developed before the first meeting. And so I would say in tandem, if you compress all of that, that justified a rumor hearing post-trial. Thank you.
It did.
I have one quick question to
Yes,
which
Your
I'd
Honor.
like a quick answer.
Yes,
If we agreed with you on the rumor hearing issue, what's the remedy?
a new trial.
A new
what I thought.
trial.
Lanier
What do
3
you
says
think,
clearly,
Larson?
if someone's deprived of a constitutionally meaningful hearing, it's a new trial. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. It's a new trial. Here we go. Let's listen to the 20 minutes of stupidity.
Good morning, Your Honors. I'm Nils Kessler for the United States. I'm from the Western District of
Yes,
Michigan.
we
and
do.
I tried the case below. I had planned to start with a discussion of the sufficiency of the evidence, but I understand my colleagues have picked 2 other issues. Do the court have a preference as to which one we address first?
Yeah, I would
You're
spend my time on
whispering.
hearsay.
Hearsay. Oh, these clowns.
Well, in this case, Your Honor, you guys, judges actually identified the primary thing here, which is if there's predisposition, then the rest of it is really academic. And all of the statements, none of which
There's
were identified specifically, all the statements in general that the defense has been.
If there's predisposition, it means we're allowed to target and entrap people. Oh, and by the way, the evidence that we're claiming is predisposition is literally things people said while under the influence of the government and its provocateurs. That's an absurd argument, and I think Kessler knows that. But here we are.
Indicative.
Repeated pressure. If they had come in, they would have seen, I mean, whether this is right or not, this is what they argued, that they would have seen that the government informants were just pounding on them, make a plan, make a plan, make a
That's
plan.
exactly
You're just
right.
sitting around, you're all talk, you're no action.
Yep.
Make a plan.
If we don't have a
Why isn't
plan,
that-
I'm done
and
with
surely that's
having
relevant.
meetings.
Theoretically, yes, but if you look at the case, if you look at the actual facts in this record, they don't identify any statements like that. There simply weren't any statements that they've identified with any specificity where you have an informant actually telling them that we should go kidnap the governor or actually putting that kind of pressure on them.
Yes,
You simply don't
it's
have it.
all
They're
throughout.
arguing this
What are you
general
talking
proposition,
about?
which isn't wrong, that if there were statements like that out there that went to inducement, say you had statements.
There are. It's why in this 3-hour interrogation we have of the FBI with Steve Robeson, they're saying, oh boy, this looks an awful lot like entrapment. Oh boy, here you were encouraging Barry before you were even an informant for us. Here you are telling him before our investigation begins that politicians are tyrants and all this other stuff. And as soon as Steve would say something, Barry would take off talking about it because he was driving a truck all day for hours. It's
So somebody's
disgusting.
saying it's clear that it has to be more than just the Polson case from the circuit says it has to be more than just providing facilities or opportunity. So something like giving somebody a ride to the place where they discuss their plans or being friendly to somebody and saying, which is what you expect any confidential informant to do.
No. You introduce people together. You're leading the trainings. You're hosting the trainings. You're paying for it. You're driving everybody around. This is nonsense. They don't have a plan. You admitted in the federal trial under oath there was no, quote, plan until September, the month before you rounded these people up, while they were not in the process of trying to commit a kidnapping. It just simply didn't happen. They know
Be
this.
friendly enough that they'll
It's
talk in
disgusting.
front of you. Those things are not solicitation to commit a crime. Nobody's disputing that they were
Being
nice to you.
friendly.
Let me ask you, so you said that there's an issue here because they're not pointing to any particular statements that were made. Does that work in the flip too, though? Because if the district court kind of made a categorical ruling that these statements are not coming in, they're hearsay, was there an obligation by the defense to say, but Your Honor, as to this specifically shows this? I guess
Yes.
I don't know how to weigh that out.
Yes, I think at the obligation, the burden is on them to show that. And the court did not make an across the board
No,
ruling
that's not
that
how it
nothing that
works.
you want to get in can come in.
You're guilty until you can prove your innocence.
The court actually
No
is their burden to
nils.
show that there is something that was improperly excluded.
Okay, here's one. I think we need to start going up north. So for me, a big part of this case is that they cased out the Traverse City location twice. But here's the informant saying, I think we need to start going up north.
Mhm.
So could you attribute the idea that we need to go stake out the governor's residence?
To the informant who
informant?
just suggested it.
No, you can attribute that entirely to Adam Fox.
What?
I know that's something that they suggested that
How could that be
idea came
attributed
from
to
the government.
Fox
But there
then?
were 5 different instances where Adam Fox suggested that before they ever got to that point where
Oh, when he's just repeating things that Dan has told him and Steve.
that statement was made. As early
And while he's being told by Dan that, hey, you know, when I worked in the military and we wanted to train guys and get them focused, we would tell them that we were training for a mission. We would train for mission specific. That's why he kept telling Adam needed to have a, quote, plan. Oh, it's not real. It's just to get these guys focused, like how we would train in the military for missions.
early as July,
It's ridiculous.
I know you mentioned spring and expletive. I think we're not going to have that long. And one of the arguments in this case is that there was really no defined plan and date. to
There's
execute.
not.
And here you have the informants saying things like, we need to get up there. We're not going to have that long. We need to keep moving. There's a lot of stuff about we need to keep moving. We need to keep the plan going. Come on, guys.
Adam
and-
Fox was the one who said, we can't wait until November. And he's
No,
the one who
actually,
actually, they heard, the
he's
jury heard a
not.
recording of Adam Fox.
Adam Fox is also the one in September who was telling your informant, Dan Chappell, who was pressuring him incessantly, that he wanted to put Dan's plan on the back burner and just go with Ty's bug out plan. I have the text messages. We all do. At this point, this charade has gotten old.
Talking with him about his plans, but they heard
Something you admit that a number of states, I mean, I had questions to your friend on the other side. Certainly, there was some evidence along these lines that did come out that showed that the government informants were
won't
at
admit any
least
of
part
that.
of the
Even
the
though
plan
5
here,
men
whether they
had
let it
been
or not is
acquitted
under
by
dispute,
2
but
different
there's
juries,
a lot, you
Mills
would agree
will
there's a
not
lot that
admit.
didn't come in, right? There were a lot of messages that didn't come in. Or you can quantify it. Your friend said most or many didn't come in.
I think they have a burden to identify something that should have come in with specificity. It can't be just numbers. It can't just be that they had 8,000
No.
texts or whatever and they didn't
No.
all
They
come
have a
in.
whole chart in their brief. They think all of those statements.
Yeah, they
should
have a
come
whole
in.
chart. We
And they didn't
provided it.
identify anything. in
Hello?
The chart is not statements
Hundreds of
entirely. A lot of it is
messages.
just their spin
Tons of
on what they
messages
want to
of
get in.
your informant
But it is
saying
on them to
ridiculous
actually say,
things.
here's something that I want to get in that is
Oh, so
not
you get
only
to hide
non-hearsay, but
evidence.
is relevant.
Hide the evidence, overwhelm people with 16 terabytes of data and then say, find the needle in the haystack with specificity. That's not how it works. And they know
And they
this.
didn't do that. I don't think they can just say there was lots of stuff out there which we're not going to
They
define
cook
that should
themselves.
have come in.
So you're saying that Judge Yonker didn't make specific rulings on these statements that are included in what we're looking at?
And he certainly would have had they identified something with any specificity.
Oh, so you're saying it was their burden in the trial court to say, no,
Yes.
judge, but
And
But
here
they
too.
But
I
once
mean,
the
tried.
judge had already made a blanket
He-
ruling
he
that
did.
none of
That's
these
right.
statements were going to
Thank
come
you,
in
Judge
under
Larson. That's right. He already said no, and he denied every single defense motion. He wouldn't allow the defense to call any witnesses. He allowed the government to threaten every single witness one by one and say, well, that's interesting, but you do know you're an unindicted co-conspirator that could be under federal investigation, and anything you say today on behalf of these men talking about what you saw and observed, oh yeah, we could indict you in the future. So people know, hey, if I say what happened at this FTX or at this meeting, I could go to jail for 20 years. I better not say anything. One by one, they allowed them to intimidate them off the
no on
stand.
D2D.
No, he
Y'all
didn't make a
did
blanket
that.
ruling that
Yes,
none of
he
them
did
would
make
come
a
in. He
blanket ruling.
basically said,
He
I
did.
will let anything in.
No, he
That-
said it can't come in unless it's regurgitated by the government.
the government.
Unless the
By Jason Chambers. Oh, we can't get in anything Dan and Plunk and Robeson were saying unless Jason Chambers or Henrik Impola literally repeated it back. Get out of here and get him, Judge Larson.
government
Don't
put
let
the words in the
Kessler
informant's mouth and the
lie to you.
informant spit it back out to the defendants.
That's consistent with Branham.
Oh, come
that
on, really?
The statements actually have to
Branham
be made.
says that the defendant
Mills is
was
getting
engaged
schooled,
in
and
a
I'm here
process
for it.
of getting the trust of the, I'm sorry, the informant was engaged in the process of getting the trust of the informant, and everything related to gaining that trust comes in as an agent statement.
And that's what the facts were in Branham, but that's not what they
No.
were, the vast bulk of what they were trying to get in here
That's not what
were
that
statements
case law
between the
says.
informants and the
He's lying
CHSs.
again.
And you can't be induced by a statement you never heard. So they wouldn't have passed the relevance bar.
What?
They wanted to get in statements between, for example, Jason Chambers and Dan Chappell.
Mhm.
And those aren't statements that the defendants
They're
ever heard. So there's
never.
no way they could have been induced to do anything by
But
statements they
he's
never heard.
inducing
What
the
they wanted to get in, a
informant
good
to
example
do
of it
He's
was
ordering it.
things
No,
where
it's
they
coming
talk
from
about,
the
for
FBI
example, I
as
don't think,
agents, not the
in my
informant.
opinion, that they're going to come together to agree. That's somebody's opinion early on that
Right,
nobody
but
ever heard.
I know Judge Radler just read you some, but like CHS Steve says, if we don't talk about actually doing what the F we need to be doing, I'm done with
I'm
these
done with
meetings.
these meetings.
We have to have objectives. We have to
The
have forward effing units
Units?
operating.
These
I mean,
are the stuff I'm
Make a
reading.
plan, make a plan, make a plan. Why isn't that relevant?
Why isn't that relevant?
Because first off, as to predisposition, that makes it irrelevant. But
What?
also, those statements.
No.
Those
This
all these kind of things.
clown is trying to argue that, oh, predisposition, you repeated something we told you to say on social media because this is what Steve did to Barry. Oh, I got zucked again. They zucked my account. I no longer have a Facebook. Throw this out here. Here, say this about governors on Facebook. Let's just see what the Patriots say. Let's see what kind of response you get. Now they're going to call that a predisposition. Get out of here. And that's what these judges need to understand happened the entire time. These informants, whether they were being directed by their FBI handlers to do this or not, doesn't matter, okay? They were still doing it, and it's documented.
Things did come in, and we're talking about Mr. Robeson's statement when?
I don't have that date in my notes. I'm sorry.
The date
I
is
can tell
from
you
the Peebles
Page
meeting
site
for that one.
R383-1, but 2578,
With
but I
forward
don't have
units?
the date.
But that's not telling anybody what to do. The evidence is clear that they may ask them
Oh,
what is your plan?
Okay,
But the
forward
plans are
unit,
all
that is
clearly coming
from
from the defendants.
August 7th,
Pressing them to
2020.
disclose what their plans are is not the same as saying we need to go kidnap the governor.
I read this as saying we need to make a plan, but in any event, so it sounds to me like today, well, you just argued that it was consistent with Branham. If we disagree with you on that, you seem like you're arguing harmless error in this court, but you didn't really argue harmless error in your brief. I see one sentence in your brief that argues harmless error. And it's your burden.
That's right,
Clearly,
clown.
it would be harmless
Tell
error as
everybody
well.
where
I
the
mean,
other
given
prosecutors
the
are who
vast
left
amount
this
of
case
evidence of their
because they were
predisposition.
so disgusted
They were talking
with
about
you.
doing this
Hey,
before they ever
where's
met the
Jonathan
informants. I think that's the
Ross?
key point to keep in mind. We have them talking about taking out tyrants as hostages. Adam Fox said we need to take out tyrants as hostages 2 weeks before he had ever met a government informant. Barry Croft had been talking about it much longer, saying which state is going to be the first one to take down their.
Actually, when Barry made that statement, I know it was in the spring of 2020. He had already been talking to Steve Robeson, so he's knowingly lying here.
Governor and hang them
But
for
that's
treason.
nice.
That's predisposition. They
No,
were
it's
talking
not.
about doing it.
It's
And
people
even if you
talking
accept
crap
that they were
online. That
pressured to
isn't
disclose what their
predisposition.
plans were, that's not the same thing.
And
as
again,
putting
that was
plans in their
already
mind.
being influenced.
All of
So
those
he
kind of
keeps
statements would go
saying
to
these things
inducement.
like 2 weeks before Adam met an informant, he said this. This is incredibly dishonest because Adam was talking to informants online, or OCEs, actual FBI employees online. It may not have been an informant. So there's these little things they can do where he's literally lying and then trying to pass this off as not a lie. And everybody can see through it at this point.
And the evidence was very strong that there's predisposition.
No, there's
Now,
not.
as to Your Honor's question about the timing, that's the only thing they hadn't agreed on. They had agreed on the place, and they went there and reconned it, and they
No,
agreed on
the
how they were
FBI
going to do it.
drove them
The
there
only
to
thing they hadn't-
recon it. Eric Mulliter was acquitted because you brought him up there under false pretenses. He didn't plan anything. So more lies.
Nailed down as the timing, because you couldn't nail down exactly when she would be at this cottage. That's
This is
why Adam
ridiculous.
Fox's words, and you can listen to that recording. He told everybody, we need to be opportunistic and be ready to strike when the asset arises. And as the jury heard, the asset was Governor Whitmer. So they did have an agreement on everything.
It's such nonsense. He's like literally just repeating operator talk that Dan has given him.
But actually, the case law from
Yeah,
the
who
circuit
is
in the
they,
Williamson case is
though?
that they don't have to agree on all the details of the timing, just that they're going to do it, and somebody has to carry out an overt act.
The only person that carried out
I
overt
didn't
acts
ask
was the
about
government
the
here.
juror
They're the
issue.
ones
Yes, Your Honor.
driving and planning the recon, for Christ's sake.
So, assuming I think that, at least for Judge Jonker's initial consultation with the juror, that there wasn't a
I love this. Tom says, thought policing, thoughts they created and manipulated 100%.
requirement that defense counsel be there. But then post-trial,
That all those submissions established is that you had triple hearsay, somebody who raised a concern and then had to admit that it hadn't come from him. He'd heard it from someone else, who in turn said he heard it from someone else who wouldn't come forward with it. And during this chain of transmission. You also had somebody saying that they thought that their office was being surveilled by Black Lives Matter or something along those lines, and expressed an
Well,
opinion.
but there's some other, I mean, it's okay, some things that are more credible than others, but didn't they add to the number of employees who purportedly heard the juror say something along the lines of, I'm going to convict?
No, you didn't have, it's not like you
No, he
suddenly
said he
had
was gonna
3
hang
people who
them.
heard it. What you had was just a longer chain of hearsay transmissions. So you really had nobody who heard it who was willing to come forward. You had one person who supposedly heard it, but what you really had was one person who said they heard it from another person who said they heard it from another person.
That's
who
not
wouldn't
true at
confirm
all.
it. That's not 3 people hearing it. So I think the judge made the right
There
call in
were
this case. As the
multiple
court's pointed out, the standard is abuse of discretion because the trial judge is in the best position to determine the scope of proceedings necessary. And that's what the court did. There wasn't a strong indicator of bias.
I love this comment. Defense, if every agent working for the FBI said it, it is predisposition. No, you can't see all the communications. Yeah,
On
exactly.
the part of the jury.
Just take our
Sworn
word
to
for
do their
it.
best to be fair and impartial. And he questioned that person. And as the court noted, it's not like the judge just blew this off.
Yes, he
The
did.
judge actually used his discretion.
He was
and
even
did
giving
took a nuanced approach.
He didn't take a nuanced approach. He would have allowed a defense witness and a defense lawyer in the room while they were questioning that juror and then telling him before, I don't have this on tape and you're not under oath. Did you say this? The judge did not take a nuanced approach when he imposed time limits strictly on the defense when it came to cross-examination of Caleb Franks. And when he got down to 5 minutes, he started doing a countdown and making disparaging comments to the defense only. I don't want to hear anything about Yonker being nuanced or fair. Please.
This court pointed out
It's
in
a
the
joke.
DOC action, and that it can be counterproductive if you have defense counsel and the prosecution there. So counsel, I know because I was there, counsel did have an opportunity to weigh in and talk to the judge. We did discuss it with the judge in chambers, and there is a transcript of it. So the judge did not in any way blow it off. He just used a nuanced approach to it.
Nuanced
He was in
approach.
the
How
best
funny.
position to assess the credibility of the allegations, and he was also in the best position to assess the credibility of the juror who he spoke to.
Right.
So
who
I don't think there's
then
anything
made
in
the
the
jury
record
foreman.
here that would
There's
establish
nothing-
that he
Nothing
abused
that
his
would
discretion.
establish anything inappropriate there, how that juror becomes the foreman. Totally coincidental also. You're supposed
Do the
to
court
buy
have any other
that.
questions you'd like me to address?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll hear rebuttal.
Can I just ask you the first point I asked your friend on the other side, this idea that the governor was going to get Secret Service protection after the election, and so they needed to move quickly?
That was Dan that
Do you agree with
suggested
your
that.
friend on the other side that that came from one of the defendants or conspirators?
I have to beg a lack of.
That's okay. He was there, and so,
Memory of
yeah,
that. I
that's
just,
It was Dan Chappell who said that.
Don't remember
Gosh,
that
why
detail.
am I more informed than these lawyers?
here's the thing about trials. I mean,
It was
trials are
Dan that
about
said it in
telling your
September.
story, giving your narrative.
It was Dan who in September was telling Adam she's going to get Secret Service details. She's going to get made a member of Biden's administration. So we need to move on her.
Trying
And
to
it was Adam
persuade.
saying,
And
well,
being able
I
to
think we're going to
persuade,
have to
armed with
put
the
your
rules of
plan on the
evidence, is what
back
trial
burner.
courts
Why
need
don't
to
we just
permit.
do Ty's
And this
bug out
trial court
plan?
really took out 801 D2D. It took it out.
That's what
I mean, what they
happened.
were, and Nils was right. I mean, they were allowed to do some things, but only if chambers authorized it. But that's C. Authorized statements are C. D was sort of removed from the book. And it really did matter here. I mean, you gave some examples, Judge Wheeler, but there's so many others in this table here. This
Well, are there
tables are.
any specific examples of specific statements that you tried to get in that the court said, no, you can't get that one in?
Well, I think there are.
recognize you're saying that there was this blanket ruling, but if we don't agree that there was just a blanket ruling, which of
There
these
was a
statements,
blanket
because
ruling.
your briefing doesn't make clear, which of these statements, number one, did you try to get in that went toward inducement and that the court said, no, that's not going to come in under 801?
I think the court's ruling was unambiguous. The pretrial ruling, and it came from trial one. So I mean, it wasn't like they were not operating with some knowledge as to how the court approached this issue. Trial one was the ruling, and it applied in trial two, and it said you're not getting any of this in. This stuff on your table, unless it complies with these requirements, it's not coming in.
Yeah, he didn't let him
And
get
so
any
I
of it
think
in.
with respect to what was excluded that should have been permitted, It's all on this table, and your honors were reading some of them, and then there's others. I do think that table is a wealth of information.
You're darn
that is
right.
the difference between conviction and acquittal,
This the
because it
folder
denied
I
them the
always have
ability to tell
here
their side of the
with
story.
all of
And
these
this is Sherman. I think it's
statements.
nice when you can stand up and cite the U.S. Supreme Court, but I can cite this Sherman case because what it says is at trial in an entrapment case, the accused may examine the conduct of the government agent. That's what you got to be able to do. And, Nils says, well, the stuff between Dan and Chambers, they never really heard it, so it doesn't really matter. No.
Of course it matters.
That stuff matters because it
They're
highlights
planning it
the
all.
conduct of the government agents.
You're darn right.
Here's what these guys were doing. It may not be that Fox and Croft heard all the sausage making that was going on to sort of trump up this thing, but it was going on relentlessly between Dan and between Chambers. And those were admissions of government agents as to how they were leading these guys along. And it's about a narrative. It's about persuading a jury. And when you're denied the ability to use the rules of evidence where they benefit you, that is an unfair trial, particularly in a conspiracy case where that other aspect of 801D, the co-conspirator thing, is being used against you at every turn. There's got to be fairness, and there wasn't here. And I think this case needs to be reversed and be sent back for a new trial for that reason.
Thank you. We'll hear rebuttal from your co-counsel.
Thank you. If there aren't any questions
They
about the
just
Rumor
keep
hearing, I'd like to
lying.
take a stab at answering Judge Riedler's question on the introduction of this Governor Whitmer becoming a cabinet member. I would differ with Mr. Kessler on who introduced
It was
this
Dan
idea.
Chappell.
If you look at page 31 of my brief, I think I highlight at least the passage that is relevant to this. And Mr. Chappell picks up Mr. Fox and drives him to the Luther FTX. This is September the 11th and 12th, when the
of
Luther
2020.
FTX is ongoing. And according to the transcript, it's record number 842, page 15,354. During this travel, Mr. Fox is talking about timing. And at that point, Mr. Chappell, then the informant, introduces the fact that Governor Whitmer could quite
That's right, it was
possibly
Dan, as
become
I
a member of
said.
the Biden administration.
Yep.
And because of that,
Just as I
would
told
have
you.
an enhanced security by the Secret Service, making the operation untenable at that time. How does Fox respond? He says, my training's inadequate. My skills are inadequate at this time. He doesn't want to proceed.
He doesn't want to.
And
He
then
says,
Chappell
let's do
then,
the bug out
he
plan.
then says, well,
Ty's bug out
it would have to
plan.
be pushed to the spring and summer.
Yeah.
And that would be an unlikely event. And so that's at least how I've
You didn't
characterized the
include,
record. I hope
though,
that I didn't
what he
miss,
said about why don't we
the-
just
the
go with
issue
Ty's
about
bug out
Mr.
plan?
Garvin introducing it, but at least my reading of the record is Mr. Chappell introduced that. So if
Yes,
there aren't
he
any other
did.
questions, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we thank you for your arguments. They were helpful. The case will be submitted.
What does that mean?
We'll give you a few moments before we call the next case.
It'll be submitted? To what? Are they going to make a ruling today or no? I guess not. Okay. All right. So it looks like we're not going to be getting a ruling today. I don't think they're moving on to the next one. I have to move on because I have an interview coming up here in 10 minutes. I'll be on the Jason Burma show. Check that out. We're going to discuss what happened here. I'm praying that we're going to get some good news because it seemed like they didn't like, I don't know. It could go either way. It seemed at first they weren't on our side. I do know that they have to say these things to appear fair. Yeah, ruling will be in weeks or months. Yeah, that's right. Because they're going to go over all of they have the actual arguments and stuff. The actual briefs themselves are quite lengthy and long and detailed. So I just think it's crazy that that's the amount of time you get to kind of present all of the issues with your case. And is it just me, or did Nils Kessler sound a little demoralized there? Even when he's lying, it's like he knows he's lying. You can tell that he knows he's lying when he's saying it. Very obnoxious. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and bounce out. It's the Jason Burma show. Let me spell it out in chat for you guys. This guy, Jason Burmas, is also a documentary filmmaker. I think he made a documentary about 9/11 a while back, long time ago. So that's that gentleman. I'll be on his show in just a few minutes, and we're going to talk about this. And otherwise, just continue to pray for the guys, you know, continue to pray. We did it live, you know, we had some hiccups with our timing, but I think that actually went very well. I was surprised to hear some of the judges there, like saying verbatim the things that Robeson was saying in chapel. That was fantastic. So hopefully that's good. And hopefully we'll get some good news soon. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Have a good day, everybody.